Now, Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
Welcome to this episode of Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Joining me on the phone, it is model, actress, and all-around great gal, the one and only TAWNY KITAEN. And of course, Alan, bonjour. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you today?
Good, good. I'm assuming, having been around the RATT guys and Bobby Blotzer, we've told those stories before, you must have run into TAWNY X amount of times over the years, right? I mean, you're familiar with her on a first name basis, I would think.
I didn't actually meet TAWNY until I was introduced to her by Sir David Coverdale. That's when I first met TAWNY. It would have been November of 1987.
Wow, you met her late. That's amazing because you were around the RATT guys in 81, 82, 83. Was she not coming over to the house? Did you not meet at a party?
When I was living with Don and we used to have parties, she may well have turned up. She may well have been there. But if she was, I didn't notice and didn't get into conversation and didn't meet her. But then when Don and I had parties, they were interesting and well populated, and you didn't necessarily know everybody who was in your house.
Yeah, they just sort of show up. One thing that we talk about during the interview, which I found interesting because I didn't know, was that she dated Peter Angelus, right? Angelus from Van Halen and Black Crowes, and actually went on tour with Van Halen for 3 years. I've always thought of her as, you know, the RATT cover girl and then the video vixen Whitesnake lady or girl. And she's like, no. Way before that, I was on the road with David Lee Roth and Peter and Eddie. And it's like, oh, okay. So she sort of had a career of being in the rock world. When you met her with David Coverdale, what kind of impact do you think she made on that band?
I don't know, but I suspect, and I'm sure you do, but if you did ask TAWNY, she would say that she had a considerable impact. I'm not sure that Sir David would necessarily agree. She definitely had an impact on him. And what their pillow talk was and how that extended to practicalities and business, I don't know. But when David introduced me to her, he was very thrilled with her and very happy with her. I was a little pissed off, to be perfectly honest. And I'll tell you why. Because Whitesnake and Great White popped out records in 87. And had there been no Whitesnake record, Rock Me would have been the #1 track at AOR, but we were always second banana to Whitesnake. And I'd put a girl's face on Once Bitten, and then I put her in the video. And then I had the thought of, you know what, I'm going to be consistent with this girl's image all the way through the videos. And then suddenly there's TAWNY doing the same for David, and I'm going, God damn it. I mean, is this a case of great minds think alike, or fools rarely differing, or is it 100th monkey theory? But I looked at TAWNY and went, God damn it. You've taken my idea, my marketing idea, and you're using it, and everybody's noticing you on a Jaguar, as opposed to the subtle use of Tracy Martinson that I was using.
Yeah, she stole your thunder, but that's what I mean about her impact, because, you know, we love the album, the 87 album, the Whitesnake 87 album is a great album, a lot of fun, Crying in the Rain, Here I Go Again, we get it, there's hits, but ultimately, and maybe David would hate for me to say this, but ultimately, it's her on the car on MTV that made people go, ooh. I mean, am I overstating the importance of that visual?
Entirely and completely. Because for me, Whitesnake was all about the impact of that first track coming out of the radio. And again, it was a moment for me of frustration because, I thought with Rock Me we had a real little piece of magic, and that we were going to potentially own AOR radio with it. And then this Whitesnake track comes out, and I go, oh, fuck, that is so good. And that record, I mean, you cannot fault that record. That is a terrific record of that moment, of that time, and obviously the apex of Whitesnake's career. It was the songs, dude. It was the recording. It was the production. That's what made that record great, not somebody doing the splits on a Jaguar. And by the way, I had a Jaguar, and I'd never, ever let a woman do the splits on my Jaguar.
Yes, but of course, you've done it at least 4 or 5 times, which is a terrific visual. And I will ask you this before we get over to Tawny. While we're speaking of Whitesnake, the 87 album was a redefining moment for them. They were very much a British blues rock, Deep Purple-ish kind of band. And then they get in there and they get Kalodner to put some sugar on it and some honey and some Fruit Loops, and they sweeten it all up and they sell it to the American audience. And of course, they had started a little bit before with Slide It In. But as a fan of the old school, when you heard that, were you like, oh God, what's he doing? Or were you like, ooh, I like this new sort of direction, this new sort of radio-friendly Whitesnake?
Well, as I said, the first time I heard a track on the radio, my immediate response was, God damn it. It just poured out of the radio and sounded fabulous, and you just wanted to turn it up, and you wanted to drive a little faster down the Esplanade, and it was just great rock and roll. And there was also, from the professional point of view, there was my sense of the competitive. And I looked at that and went, we're up against it now.
Yes, you were. And on that, I will let you go do some splits on your Jaguar, and I will get over to the one and only Tawny Kitaen. We are speaking with Tawny Kitaen. Of course, folks remember her from the 80s, being on those RATT album covers, and of course in the Whitesnake videos. As we say in Montreal, le bonjour, Tawny. How are you?
Oh, le bonjour, c'est bien, et toi?
Oh, très, très bien. Je suis très enchanté de parler avec vous. I'm thrilled to speak with you today.
Oh, merci. But doucement pour moi.
Yeah, doucement. But we'll do this in English today because the listeners are generally English. So, okay, I want to start at the beginning. Before we get, we've talked about, or you've talked a lot about the Whitesnake videos and stuff, so I want to go a little bit earlier. You were born in San Diego, which was absolutely my favorite place on earth after Montreal, I guess.
Right.
But at that time, you got to know Robbin Crosby of RATT. You dated Robbin Crosby of RATT. They were in a band called Macmeta back in the day. Pardon me?
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, were you ever around Robbin in those sort of Macmeta days? And did you see that development of him becoming a rock star?
I lived with him. We moved in together when we were like 15 and a half, 16 years old. So I had orange Marshall stacks in my bedroom, and I couldn't, and we were living with the bass player for the band that he was in was called Phenomenon. That was the band that he was in before he went up to Los Angeles. I cut all the guys' hair in the band. I was the hairstylist. I was the, this is what you're going to wear. Rob obviously got to say on where we would go with the money that we earned from that gig, and it was always to a Mexican restaurant because Mexican food was his favorite and my favorite food on the planet.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're down in that area, La Jolla and all that. I mean, Mexican food's all over the place. In my career as a journalist, one of the defining moments was that I got to be Robbin Crosby's last interview, and he would call from the palliative care home, and he just wanted to tell his story.
Right.
Were you in contact at all with Robbin towards the end? Because it appeared to me that he just wanted to reach out with people and just have sort of a final say and just say, "Hey guys, I loved you. I appreciate you, and thank you for supporting me." Were you around at the end?
Yes, I was. I was fortunate enough to be around at the end. About 5, 6 months before he took his life, I would go up and stay with him at the nursing home, and he couldn't stay at Cedars-Sinai. He got so big that the beds couldn't accommodate his size. That's why he got moved to the old folks retirement home. They could accommodate him better. And every time I lived in Newport, so I'd drive an hour and a half up to LA, and he'd beg me to please bring him some peppermint schnapps. And I was like, do the nurses, are they okay? He was like, screw what the nurses think. I'm in a rest home and I'm dying. Can you please bring me my, and I'm like, you know what? Absolutely. I don't care what he wants. I don't care if the nurses say it's not good for him. He's going to get what he wants, because we didn't know if it was going to get better, if he was going to get better, if he was going to survive this. He already knew in his mind. He had already made his mind what he was going to do. But something you said really struck a chord with me about him wanting to reach out and tell his story, or the people he was around, letting them know he appreciated them, or so on and so forth. He said to me, in that vein, he said, I wish we would have had children. And that just broke my heart, because I was in a marriage and I had 2 children, but Rob was the love of my life. And to not have had a child with the love of my life, whose birthday, his is August 4th, mine's August 5th. We both look like lions with all this hair that we both had going on. It would have been a wonderful time. I can't even put into words what that would mean to me, to have Rob's and my child here. But unfortunately, the cards didn't play out that way. But what they did play out in was that there was never really a moment that we weren't in each other's lives. So the day he died, till the day he checked himself out of the home, as you know, and went home and gave himself a last shot and went to sleep.
And went to sleep.
Never wake up.
It's never tragic. Anyway, and I'll bring it back to the light aspect for a real quick. My daughter is an August baby, and I'm an August baby. So there's 4 August babies there. So there you go. That's a lot of. Yeah, she's August 1st. I'm at the end. So you've got 3 Leos and 1 Virgo. So there you go.
Right.
When did you and Robbin split up? Then were you with him during the album covers and the first RATT things, or?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. No, go ahead. No. I want to hear that story. So you were with him until what, 84, 85?
Yeah. Well, we got together in the 70s. We met in the 70s, late 70s, 76, 77. I mean, like I said, we were only 16 years old. He was a year and a half older than me. But that's when we moved into each other, moved in together. And I think because of all the support, all the bands, everything that we've been through, to ask me to do their album covers, I thought was really special. And it was real nice that the rest of the guys felt the same way, because I was obviously friends with all of them growing up. So it was, it's really special to me. I am so, so grateful. It reminds me of, I've been looking a lot at Kobe Bryant stuff, because he was our neighbor. And so this has really affected me as well. Our whole town. It's affected our whole town. And I see these posts that Vanessa's posting, and I'm like, thank God they took those photos. Thank God they took those photos. And that's what the takeaway is that you get your life and you live it, but you've got to take photos. You've got to, I have a photo of Rob and I from a couple of days before he passed away. And I am so, even though he doesn't look his best and the disease had already kind of ravaged him, to have that, I will cherish that until the day I die. So he's always with me because I have that photograph.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
have to pretend or speak back into my mind. It's right here, right in front of my face.
Yeah, yeah. Boy, yeah, I miss him every day. I gotta say, and those conversations I had with him back in 2002, just they break your heart. But let me ask you this, because I still talk to Bobby and I still talk to Steven. RATT has always been somewhat of a functional, dysfunctional band. I mean, right? Was that the understatement of the year, by the way? I think I just won an
Yeah,
award for that.
that's the understatement of the year award for sure.
I,
We
I
will grant you that.
I definitely
Yeah,
win for that one. But you know, when they're
yeah,
starting off and they're doing the EP and they're doing Out of the Cellar and Invasion of Your Privacy, and it's starting to take off, and Bon Jovi's opening for them, and the whole, and Bret Michaels and Poison, was it always sort of a dysfunctional thing, or at that time when you were there, do you see them having success and it's building and it's a great moment, or were you sitting there from the outside, sort of from the inside outside looking, going, I don't understand how these fucking five guys get on stage every night. They hate, you know. How was it?
yeah.
You know what?
Well, first of all, there's half the bands feel exactly the way that you just explained that they felt. How can these five guys get up on stage after they hate themselves, hate each other so much? That is, as you know, being in this business, that is so true for, I would say, 50% of the bands, and I'm probably even, it should be higher, but I'll just give it 50. There's a lot of things that play into that equation. Rob is, I read somewhere the other day where it said Nikki Sixx gave him the name King. No, he didn't. We've been calling Rob King since we lived in Huntington Beach, together in our 1-bedroom little apartment. So to hear all these things, you've got to really, like you're doing, coming to the source to make sure that what you hear and what history, proves is that the truth is being said. And I was around a lot during those back days, but you've got to remember that there were egos. Steven, I've never seen a band with so many egos. Like, I toured with Van Halen. My boyfriend that I left Rob for, Pete Angelis, who was the Counting Crows manager, lighting director for Van Halen, became their manager. I went on tour with them for 3 years. I was stuck in a bus with Eddie, Alex, Michael, and David for 3 years. And there were egos, but it always fell back to David. David always had the last word when it came to aesthetics and it came to what the album was going to be, so on and so forth. But when it came to music, it was Eddie. That was all Eddie. Now with RATT, nobody had a clear cut of who did what. Rob was a Leo. He was a very strong man. He was king. And anybody trying to go up, and he was so intelligent, so smart. And a lot of people don't know that because they just look at him as a rock star. He was as you know, you talk to him, he's incredibly intelligent, incredibly. So I think he probably let things slide a little bit because he was smart enough to know to keep the peace. But it was crazy, Bobby and Steve. And did they finally get it worked out? I heard Steve won. Did Steve get the name?
Yeah, Steven's got the name, and in fact, I spoke to Bobby about 2 weeks ago, and he's essentially just retired from it all. I mean, somewhat frustrated at what went on, but
yeah,
I mean, they've been suing each other since day one, so it's
yeah. I mean, it should have never come to this. It should have never started. And I think if Rob was in his right mind when all of this was going on and wasn't doing drugs, although I will give that to Nikki Sixx because Nikki had a lot to do with that in a certain way. And I don't mean to say anything bad about Nikki, but we've all read Nikki's book. It's no secret what Nikki was doing. I just, where was I going with that?
But you're right in the sense that had they really put a front up as a team, They could have been as big as Bon Jovi or as Nikki Sixx. They had the songs, Round and Round.
Yes.
You can't deny that they had the singles. They had the songs. They had the
Right.
talent. You're not going to say that Warren DeMartini's not a great guitar.
Oh my God, one of the greatest guitar players. I put him up there right next to Vi. Maybe a little less because of the age difference, but he's an incredible guitar player.
Yeah, all they didn't have was, I mean, not to be
front.
Yeah, but not to be simplistic. What they didn't have was the proper attitude. They were too busy smacking each other around rather than which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Let me just quickly go ahead.
Can I say something?
Of course you can.
David Coverdale. Thank you, David Coverdale. He's exactly what we're talking about right now. He got a second chance. David got a second chance. He had been through his drugs. He'd been through his money. He owed $2 million to Geffen Records. He fell from the greatest heights down to the lowest lows. He got a second chance because he was talented. These guys, RATT, would have had the exact same story happen to them if drugs didn't get in the way, if egos didn't get in the way. See, David didn't have any ego problems with the band because the band wasn't on the album. David, it was just David and Sky, what's his name, the lead guitar player.
John Sykes.
Helped write, John Sykes, right, who wrote some of the... So when they broke apart, David had all the music, and the band only got paid like $2,000 a week. I mean, they were making next to no money while David and myself and the managers were bringing in all that merch money and all the albums and, all of that. So you get a band where everybody thinks they've got a say and nobody's clear cut on whose position is what. Like I said, Eddie's was or David Lee Roth was. Then it can go and it did. Look what happened. This is a band that should have never had these problems or broken up. They had the material, like you said. They had the songs. They had the gorgeous girl on the album covers.
Well, listen, they did. In 2020 or 2021, RATT should be on the stadium tour with Def Leppard and Motley Crue. They should not be doing backyard barbecues and little country festivals.
They're missing the one component that could get them there, and that was the Leo. That was King. That was the 6'5" gorgeous hunk Rob Crosby.
I agree. Now, what you brought up, and I actually didn't know about you, was that you toured with Van Halen, and touring with Van Halen is a lifelong dream. I'm friends with some of their
nightmare, depending on
yes,
what day it is.
I am friends with some of their former techs here and there, but what was that like in that era with David Lee Roth? Now, what are we talking here? Are we talking just before 1984 and their breakup? Are we talking mid 70s? When were you sort of on the road with Van Halen?
During the days when we could not walk out the front door, we had to go out through the kitchen. It was like being with the Beatles. It was crazy. So, I mean, I'll never forget. When I close my eyes, all I can see is David Lee Roth in these striped-colored spandex pants and a like a white shirtless tee, jumping off Alex's high rise, his riser, kicking his legs high up into the air into a V and just going, ah! I mean, they were just insane and they never got boring. I mean, I watched them every single night. I knew when the cues were. I knew when knew when the lighting was supposed to be high. And that's where I cut my teeth on that, so that when I got involved with Whitesnake, I knew what to do and what not to do. I had watched the pros.
Well, you watched the best band in the world. I mean, that's what you did.
I did.
You did.
And nobody can deny that. Nobody can. I'd like to see somebody tell me that Van Halen isn't the greatest rock band in the world.
Listen, you're not going to get an argument from me, but okay, let me just quickly ask you that, and then I'll ask you about David Coverdale. But When they brought in Sammy Hagar, was that the same band to you, or was that like, ooh, no, not?
No, it was Sammy. I love you, but stick to your own band. It was, it just really showed, and it showed the other guys in the band too, that David is a huge part of that success. Because Sammy could not bring it. Nobody, you're trying to fill David Lee Roth's shoes. That's like trying to fill Tommy Lee, or Alex Van Halen or Bonham. There's just certain people that you can't ever bring back or pretend to be. I mean, yes, there's new people that come up like a Warren DeMartinez that surprises a guy like Steve Vai, but you're never going to. If you don't have that guy, you're never going to make. Look at Steven Tyler. I mean, come on, look at Mick Jagger. Look at all these frontmen that everybody knew their position and where they were and were able to stay together.
Listen, I fully agree. And with Van Halen, what I find unique is that they have 4 guys that you really sort of couldn't replace in a sense, because throwing out Michael Anthony's is terrible.
Well, I was just going to say they only have 3 guys, because Michael is the sweetest guy on the planet, and he would just go like, okay, let's go. I mean, there was never a question of aesthetics or music. Michael was just, let's do it. I mean, just the sweetest guy. So really, there were 3 egos in that band, not 4.
Well, yeah. Three big ones now.
And I was up close and personal. I mean, this isn't just, I didn't read this somewhere or get this secondhand. This is up close and personal. I mean, David lived with Pete and I for a while because he didn't want to be alone. Oh my goodness, that was a wild time.
Oh, listen, you've had an incredibly wild 80s, I got to say, and
but no drugs. I'm the only, me and the Whitesnake, the guys in Whitesnake, were the only ones that did not do any drugs, because the guys, by the time I got them in Whitesnake, had already been through all of that, like I had said earlier with David. So there was no drinking, there was no drugs, and I wasn't drinking, and I don't do drugs. So everyone always goes, oh, 80s, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I'm like, there was sex because I was married. There was rock and roll because that was a profession. But drugs, that was not Whitesnake. That was not us.
That was not Whitesnake. Now, I had a chance to interview David not once, but twice in June of this year.
Wow.
Listen,
he must have loved you.
On this show, he is referred to as the mighty David Coverdale. That is very important because that's one of my favorite bands ever. But jokes aside, I want to ask you this. You, of course, are in the videos, and we talk about the videos. But what do you think was the importance of the visual in those videos? Because, Whitesnake was sort of trying to break the American market at that time. They were, the 87 album was sort of a rebirth for the band. But I don't know if you're not in those videos and that's not the visual and the car and the whole thing. I don't know if it goes as successful. Do you agree that the visuals and and the success of those videos with you in it contributed to them getting that sort of second chance in the American market?
Contributing? Absolutely. Contributing.
Yeah, because no video, had they done sort of a Here I Go Again performance video, we might not be talking about it in 2020.
Well, it's just another piece of the puzzle of why we didn't stay married. He was the head of that band. There were no other people in that band that could tell him what to do because they were just hired guns. But with I lost my train of thought again. Where was I going?
Well, we were talking about the importance of not only the music but the visuals with Whitesnake.
Yeah. Well, I think we got extremely lucky too that it was the perfect storm where MTV all of a sudden comes alive. We hadn't seen anything like that. It's almost the phenomenon of kids sitting there on their iPhones today. That was our generation's iPhone, was MTV. I think, but I will also say that if the videos weren't good, if Marty Callner hadn't done such an incredible job with me, then you're right. Then I think maybe they wouldn't be touring with Bon Jovi, Motley Crue, and RATT. So yeah, it's hard for me because you're talking to the girl that was in it, but I'm also a creative person. So I wasn't just the girl in the video. I was like, okay, let's do this, let's do that. Can we do this shot? What if we do this? What if we? So, and a lot of that has been said about me, about being Yoko Ono, from David Klodner, John Klodner, David Geffen's right-hand man. And at first I was a little upset about that, but as I get older and I'm proving everything that's going on, I'm like, yeah, I was Yoko Ono, and you're welcome.
Well, I'm going to ask you this because you mentioned John Klodner, right?
Yeah, John Klodner.
But every time somebody talks about John back then, it was like, oh, he's the great guru, and he, Aerosmith dude looks like a lady, and blah,
right.
blah, blah. And now when I spoke to David recently, when I speak to Alan Niven, when I speak to others, they go, ugh, John Klodner. Is that sort of your impression as well? It's just like, ugh, John Klodner.
Well, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, but that was the question. I mean, do you sort of, but listen, let's put it this way. In 1987, everybody went, oh, it's John Klodner. He's a fucking genius. And in 2020, people sort of rolled their eyes and go, mm-hmm, yeah, sure he was. Do you sort of roll your eyes as well?
Well, yeah, I do, and also I got into like not fights with him, obviously, but we got into disagreements because there was a thing that kids don't know back then called A side, B side. So I would go in and he'd want to put this on the A side, like this was the single. I'm like, no, we're coming out with that song after. Put this as a B side. Go out this with a single. And he was like, and rightly so, like, who is she? Why am I listening to her? David's giving me all the, go in and do whatever you want, say whatever you want to. So I got into it with David Geffen about John Howard Kaufman and Doc McGee, and he wanted them to go with McGee, and I said no. McGee already has Bon Jovi and Motley Crue. Whitesnake needs their own Doc McGee. They're not going to play second fiddle to Motley and John and Bon Jovi. So I got my way that way, and I got my way on picking singles, like I said. And so John did not like me because I was doing his job, but I was doing it maybe a little bit better than he thought or could have done. And he just was a pain in the butt to me, did not like me because I was showing him up. And I know that sounds egotistical. I don't care what that sounds. I'm in an age now where I can tell the truth. And it's the truth, and he knows it. That's why he called me Yoko Ono.
And I have to say, Doc McGee at the time, you're right, was sort of dividing his attention between Bon Jovi and Motley Crue, and we all know what happened there. It sort of, he ended up getting fired by both, right?
Could you imagine if I would have stuck Whitesnake with Doc? And Doc's a really good friend of mine too. As a matter of fact, long story short, I get divorced from David, move down to Newport Beach, meet my future husband. Doc McGee turns out to be his golfing partner. Just as I thought, I got away from the whole rock scene. I'm down in Newport Beach. It's all about athletes. I'll never see anybody in the music business again. There's Doc McGee playing golf with my husband. I thought that was hilarious.
That is funny as heck.
Yeah. So Doc got me in the end.
He did, and I love Doc. I actually interviewed him in February. He's the best. I love Doc. Just real quick.
He's a great shooter. I just love him to death.
Oh yeah, and what he's done with Kiss in the last 10 years has been phenomenal.
Oh.
I mean, he's kept them going. And
oh
anyway.
My God! I don't know if you know how much money. I know how much money he makes off merchandising a year. And let's just say, if one family can live off of that, if 80 families could live off of that for the rest of their lives, he makes this in 1 year. I'm not going to tell you, but just put it this way, as you probably already know, Kiss is the biggest selling merchandiser of all time rock bands.
Yes, they are the perfect brand. They do
They
it.
are.
They absolutely. Listen, I'm sitting in a room right now where I've got a Kiss mug staring at me, a Kiss calendar staring at me, a Kiss wall face staring at me. I've got a Kiss curtains. Listen, they win. And I know we're going to run out of time.
Absolutely, they win. Absolutely.
Oh,
well said.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you can't deny it. Just real quick, you did get divorced from David around 91, 92. Well, 91, I guess it was. At that time, he started getting into this zone of, I really don't want to do this anymore. And, 94, 95, just before the divorce, could you see that maybe his temperament and his humor about being a rock star and getting out there was starting to change? Because he sort of describes this dark period from like 93 to 96 where he was just like, I don't want to fucking do this anymore.
Yeah, because the girl in the video was getting more attention than the lead singer of the band.
Right. But, okay.
People would bring signs. People would paint pictures of me and bring them, and then David would have to have a roadie go out, slap a pass on the guy, bring the picture back. But people would bring signs and say, bring Tawny on, bring Tawny on. This poor guy's been working his entire life to get the attention, and now all of a sudden I've stolen it from him. And the ego that David Coverdale has. He was none too happy about that. But, I mean, we never fought about it. I didn't really know about it until after we got divorced. I was like, what the heck is going on here? He just couldn't handle somebody. So that's another reason why the guys that work for him, and him and John Sykes could never, listen, never say never. But David doesn't want an equal. David wants to be king. Well,
as a fan, I will say, there is no equal to David Coverdale.
No, there's nobody. I mean, forget about it. He's got if not the best rock and roll voice ever.
Absolutely. Top. I mean, you've got Lou Gramm, you've got David Coverdale, you've got
Jethro Tull.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got some incredible Lou Reed. You've got some great, really incredible singers. And in that particular genre, there's like maybe a handful of what David could do. And there's thousands and thousands of them trying.
And by the way, I will throw Stephen Pearcy in there because he's obviously not, classically trained or whatever, but you cannot hear Round and Round with any other voice. You can't get some guy off of American Idol and have them sing Round and Round and have it sound like RATT. His voice is incredibly unique and incredibly tied to those songs. You cannot have a replacement singer and pull it off as, this is, So I'll give Stephen a lot of credit as well,
I'll give him the credit for being unique. Because there's something to be said for that. There's absolutely something to be said for it being unique and not hearing those songs with anybody else. But I can hear those songs with a few other people. But you're right. There's a certain uniqueness that Stephen has that you don't just get like even Poison can't do a Steve Pearcy voice. That's going to make me stand up and go. It's the songs that are going to get me, not the voice of Bret Michaels. I love you, Bret, but that's not why I listen. Stephen Pearcy has, I think, what you're talking about is that ability to drag you into a song because he's very unique in how he sings. Oh,
absolutely. And Jack Russell, a great white, also is one of these just sort of kooky voices that just fits for those songs, and you just can't. Now, I do know that you have to run out in a second because we're both on schedule here, but I will finish with this, and then we can maybe consider a part 2 at some point. But you mentioned John Sykes, and Sykes, of course, was a big part. Comes over from Tigers of Pantang. He is a big part of the success, and who knows? Then he becomes a recluse, and we never hear from him ever again. what do you think makes John Sykes tick, and why do you think in the last 20 years he's sort of been vacant from the rock scene?
I'll tell you this. I know how much, and here I go again with the money, but trust me, if people think that rock stars want to do this just to play music, it's not true. It's like baseball players. They don't play just to play. They play because they want the money. So, David, it's okay, but they're both going to be taken care of for the rest of their lives because of their music. Where David has a leg up on John is David gets 100% of the merch. So if John were to come back, he'd have to split that. David wouldn't want to split that. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And listen, I don't blame David for not wanting to split it. I mean, he starts this band in whatever, 77, 78, and it's. Yeah,
but John Sykes, we have to give him credit.
Absolutely.
David, he really deserves that credit, and and plus, I don't know. David's a weird bird. He's a strange bird.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a tough one. I think when you start the whole thing and you've gone through all the different band members and you've kept it alive for what now, the 43, 44 years, I can sort of understand why you say, "Hey, no, this is mine." I mean, I get that. I can't fault him for that. I probably would do the same thing, to be honest.
Well, but see, he's not doing anything. Listen, John left. I don't feel sorry for me, Argentina. Like he left. It's not like David's like begging to give him any of the money from the T-shirts and everything. So I think that John probably just went, you know what, my life is so much better without him. I've made all this money on doing 15 million albums sold. I don't need any more. I'm fine. And good for him, There's no ego in that. That's just, I know my worth. I enjoyed myself. Now let David take it over. And lucky for David, he was dating me.
Yeah. Well, listen, I certainly won't deny that.
Put that part in the video.
Oh, listen, the show is Everything Goes. It's we don't do sound.
No, I said don't put that in the radio.
Oh, don't put that. Oh, darn! Now I'm gonna edit stuff. Okay, but there you go. We are at almost 40 minutes. We said we would do 10, so we're way over.
Oh my goodness!
But
no wonder Rob talked to you and David spoke to you twice. You are really good. You really know how to take someone down a path and get them to divulge things that they maybe shouldn't have said or didn't want to say. So
okay.
Congratulations on that.
We're safe here. It's a safe place. But I will, if you're interested, I will send you the YouTube link to the Robbin interview. And
please,
listen. First of all, the audio quality is not as good as broadcast because it was done in 2002 on a little mini mic. But if you sit through it, I guarantee that you will cry because I listened to it and it's just so incredibly sad because he's talking about how Stephen Pearcy was jealous of John Bon Jovi and he was jealous of Bret Michaels and they would screw with their stage and he put all his cards on the table. He didn't give a rat's behind, no pun intended, about offending anybody. He was of the mind that this is the last thing I'm going to say and I'm going to say it. And
me, I've got to hear this.
Yeah, it'll make. I guarantee it'll make you cry. It is a very, very lots of revelations, and it's so it's sad. It's sad, but
and here we are coming up on the eve of his birthday.
Yeah.
And so it always hits me around this time. Not unfortunately, but fortunately, my birthday, like I said earlier, is the next day. But I can't help but be completely saddened by the fact that he's not here to celebrate.
Yeah, you know what? Come to think of it, August 4th is only a couple of weeks away. I think I might actually put this episode up on that day to celebrate.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah, you know what? I will put this up on August 4th to say, here, Robbin, this one's for you. So there you go.
There you go.
Thank you,
There
Tawny.
you go.
Absolute pleasure.
My
And I
pleasure.
will text you that link in a second, and I will put this up on August 4th. And as we say in Montreal, merci beaucoup. Thank you so much.
C'est d'accord. Et toi? And if you could send me a link after you're done with this, I'll be able to post it on my stuff as well.
Yes, absolutely. I will. We will do this in 2 weeks, and I will send you. I have a one-stop link that connects to everything, to Spotify, iHeart, and all that. So
Good.
yeah, I'll send you that link now, just so you have it. But it's because it's one link for everything.
Okay. And listen, if you start listening to it and you've got any other questions that we weren't clear on, just, you know what, now that I know you and now that I've spoken to you, just go ahead and give me a call, and I'll answer whatever question you may need to fill in something that wasn't there.
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Merci beaucoup. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. You too.
Cheers now. Bye-bye.
Bye, sweetie.